Welcome back to the most professional StarCraft 2 with our first Grand Finalist, the rank 1 Terran in the world, the Frenchman from Team Liquid in the blue. We have Clem, facing off against the only player who can keep up with him, the Zerg in the red, the Italian stallion. It's Reynor, in a double elimination Grand Finals to Big Gabe's Xperioncraft Cup number 3. These two facing off in person for the lion's share of $5,000. And before we get started, it'd be incredible if you could smash that like button or maybe even subscribe. Help me count the algorithm. And Jimmy, what are we at? 1,776 likes on this video, on this cast. And I'll cast another one. And I'll probably do it anyways, because I don't know what else I do with my life. But thank you for watching. Hopefully, you've had a good day so far. And hopefully it's about to get just a little bit better. Then the first drones and lings as the Reaper comes in, pokes around, but it's not even going to be able to delay the third hatchery because Reynor slipped a drone out early, bounces the Queen, but the knitting needles have done enough to deter the Reaper for now. And the SCV scout was sent, but Reynor knows that Clem wants to do every little thing, and sometimes more that you could possibly do to mildly to moderately inconvenience the Zerg. And it's those little advantages that he builds such a foundation to make people complain in the comments that it looks unfair when Clem plays Terran. But these two, this matchup in particular, not Terran versus Zerg, but Reynor versus Clem, is bar none the fastest matchup in the game. These two regularly at 600 APM, microing like fiends on multiple fronts. Well, I barely try to keep up with one, but that's what I'm here for. It's a knife fight at a phone booth, a wrestling match, a poker game, all at the same time. And, well, most importantly, what it is entertaining. So, and speaking of, to get to this finals, Clem managed to take the winner's bracket finals over Reynor, which means he's up 1-0 in series. That means if Clem wins this best of 5, he will be the champion, winning 2-0 in the total series. Reynor, on the other hand, has a little bit more work. If he wins the best of 5 to start, then we're going to be all tied up, and a best of 3 will determine the ultimate champion. So, we'll see. Either way, we have some high speed and stressful StarCraft in store. So hopefully you're buckled up, buckled in, buckled down. You got your pizza rolls, your granola bars, whatever other sort of basic snack. It's been a while since I've been all healthy lately. Salad. No, I don't even think salad is that. That's not important. A lair is already on the way. And what is this? A Raven in Zerg versus Terran? Clem? Who is this? Well, he's not going to use it as something to clear creep, but instead as auto turret harass, which is certainly one of the options. Haven't seen this in quite a while. And the Queens will deal with it. Meanwhile, on the other side, the Hellions engaging Queens directly. The Queen defense teams on either side will easily drive it back. And the knitting needles will discourage any further incursions. The Raven is nice to have, but it is a lot of gas and has relatively little vision/detection range. I know the theory crafting of why don't Terrans just build a Raven is repeated on a very regular basis, but it does cut into your potential for Banshees and Liberators, of course, and already at half HP. Didn't get any of the creep tumors. Clem, I applaud trying something different, but the applause is dying down as it seems like Reynor has comfortably gotten to lair, as well as maybe just taking out the Raven from the sky. Nevermore, say the Queens. Which, well, I seriously doubt we're going to see another one maybe in the entire series, so they might be right about that. The Queen's holding. One assassinated by the Frenchman. A revolutionary start, but the Zergling counter the Marines, but the Zerglings slip through, get the wraparound, and there's not nearly enough of them. A single Widow Mine splits off a couple. Make that two, but easily diffusing the situation. And now on the mineral line, the Hellions coming back to defend. But the Zerglings are already inside the house and ripping apart the residents. A dozen SCVs dead. Widow Mines being ripped apart as well. The Hellions are bruised. He might be able to take them out, but 17 SCVs. It's a disaster for Clem in game number 1. And even losing some Hellions to boot. Wow. 69 drones for Reynor. Just stretched another one into a hatchery. But What a titanic mistake. Sinking any opportunity at having some sort of economic equalization. Wow. Reynor, and that's the risk. When you go for a Raven and nothing else in the sky and the Hellions aren't able to cover the ground, the Zerglings just slip by. The Queens defend, the Zerglings run anywhere else, and a bit lackadaisical from Clem to say the very least. It's game one, though, remember, I believe on the same day this entire tournament was held. So they just probably a couple of hours ago played, and I'm gonna have to check out those matches as well, but certainly Reynor getting the better end of things. And now a hive is in production. Infestors as well. +1/+1 about to complete for Clem, but the Hellions, only one survivor with 12 kills, but that is torn to shreds as well. I say as well like 6 times. What are words? It's a good question, but we're not going to delve too deep on it. Unlike how deep Reynor has invested in the creep so far, a Widowmine drop is thrown out. Kind of feels like Clem throwing literally whatever he has into things, trying to get some damage done, and slow down the freight train that is Reynor's economy. And so far, so good. There was a few moments, obviously, when the SCVs were being ripped apart and forced off the mineral line, where Reynor took a massive lead, but Clem, overall, with 3 command centers, is going to be able to recover quickly for now, at least until the Ultraless Cavern comes online. Daddy's coming home early today. And Jimmy, edit that out. The creep spread will force several scans just to get to the bases, or he just goes for the hatchery, potentially. There are 63 Zerglings on the field, but they're not quite in position to deal with this. Decides to slurp up the Marines instantaneously, doesn't lose a single one. And Clem, starting to stabilize, jams himself into the corner. Still too many Zerglings, dead even on the upgrades. And the Infestor's just waiting for a more lucrative target, as waiting until the Marines drop out is probably a better idea. Another attack to the south. Where did he get the rest of these Hellions from? The Hellbats. He's actually adding more. What is this bio-curious composition out of Clem? Blue Flame Hellbats in this economy? Well, the Zergling counterattack. Deja vu. We've just been in this place before, losing SCVs, but doing some counter damage is very important. Fungal holds it together. 3 Ultraless in production, but yet to be delivered. And the Blue Flame Hellbats are just incinerating everything that gets close, as all he has right now are Zerglings. There's not even Banelings on the field. The Fungal's thrown out, melting through the Marines, but the Medivacs are keeping enough of this intact, and somehow, through some sort of alchemical processes, are also able to heal the Hellbats. 4 Ultras in production, but Clem has found a gap in the armor before the armor upgrade's completed. He's torn through the 3rd base. The Ultra pops out, surrounded by the Terrans. It's a target-rich environment. But Reynor cut the corner of having any sort of anti-air. He's down to 3 Queens. He's got the Ultras, but this has given... The Ultras popped out while Clem was actively grinding through Reynor's bases. I'm kind of pulling my thoughts together here, as they're all over the place, just like Clem's attacks, but because the Ultras are spotted on that side of the map and he has time to react, means they're not going to have nearly the impact they would if they were knocking on the door the first thing. Hellbat drop like it's 2013, which is half of Clem's life ago. Actually, more than that. A single Liberator, but the Queen's able to get underneath it. The Hellbats work well in tight spaces, much like Ultraless and your mother do not. Wow, that is disgusting. Just jamming them into that little corner. Another Liberator starting to rack up the kills. The Spore Crawler scampering into position, but Clem now starting to mine out of the main base. But Reynor took his entire lead in the early game, and Clem has had time to recover, and he's used that time very wisely. Is there a Bane Nest? No. Reynor has really focused on a narrow path with his tech. He's got 2 macro hatches. Baneling Nest is on the way. The Spire is completed. Finally branching out just a little bit in order to be able to knock the Liberators and the Medivacs out of the sky. And Clem, most importantly, is still reliant on bio, which technically includes Hellbats, which I will admit begrudgingly. In fact, he has mass 18 Hellbats. which are not great against Ultras, but it's better than chewing through your Marines and Marauders. I have not seen this for probably not just this year, but the last as well. As Hellbat's just rarely the choice in the late game, but they only cost minerals, which leaves your gas open for a lot of other opportunities. Usually things like Ghost, but he still doesn't have the Academy. Corruptor's on the way, gonna force at least the lift on the planetary. Burning with the Adrena. Wow, those upgrades. The focus on either side. We have +2 mech plating in production, clearly looking to counter that mass Zergling style out of Reynor. But the Zerglings come back in the moment Clem leaves. The drop is boxed out, and 10 SCVs dead in the blink of an eye. And a few more, just because Clem is so sporty. The transfer there, Clem's down to 43 SCVs, but that means his army supply is absolutely massive. Supply depots going down, more SCVs could be targeted. But Reynor just stabbing every single angle that Clem isn't acutely aware of, and easily taking out a critical mass of the economy. But now he has to deal with the full brunt of 160 supply Terran army. The maximum supply Reynor can have for his army is 125, without some trickery that he doesn't have the time nor resources to do. But the Corruptors, there's only Marines to deal with the Corruptors, which means they can't be taken out too quickly. Huge counterattack. SCV is going to be cut down again. Goes down the center. The Fungal will take a chunk, but the Liberators overhead with a Venn diagram of freedom will be enough to hold for now. The Zergling counter running by yet again. Both players stretched to the limit right now, near maximum supply. Hundreds, over 1,000 APM combined. The Infestors have full energy. The Hellbats are not the most agile creatures. The Banelings rolling in underneath, but another group of Bio is coming up, and 3-3 finishing mid-fight as the Ultras are left behind. The Hellbats thinning the Lings from the Ultras, the Banelings exhausted. And overall, a relatively even fight. Clem in the last 2 minutes has killed 173 Zerglings. And the only reason Banelings don't show up on that tab is because when they die, they're technically succeeding instead of being lost. They still show up on resources lost, by the way. I feel like I have to explain that every time because Banelings are not a small investment. Clem on living off of mule stimulus checks right now. Whereas Reynor is scratching out hatcheries one after another. He has to replace them as Clem keeps putting them down almost as quick as he can put them back up. The small Zergling counters, but this is game 1 of up to 8 games between these two, and I have a feeling this is not going to be a one-sided experience. Those medevacs are almost entirely out of energy, healing through the stims and not-so-stims of damage. A double drop easily knocks out a hatch to the north side. Picks up again. The Corruptors, not nearly fast enough to deal with it. Has to be real careful, Stimmy. I'm surprised we don't see a fusion core. Caduceus reactor for medevac energy regen. He's making Hellbat Marauder. I love the, I love your gumption, son, but you might be in way over your head. Now, I honestly can't tell if the Hellbats are better than just either having more bio or mass Widow Mine. But of course, they don't cause gas, and Widow Mines have a tendency to backfire, especially when a player of Reynor's caliber is able to work against them. The jury's still out, and I think we're just going to have to wait to see the verdict here. 14 Banelings on the way. The brawler compositions on either side. No ghosts, barely any infestors, no vipers. As Clem with 160 army supply, but it's not like Reynor's being too stingy with it either. Ultra's coming up, but as soon as the Marauders can focus their fire, it'll easily be exploderated on the field. But a huge bungle down the center, grabbing some of the units in front because they can't move behind, and the Ultras are cleaving the army in twain. Whoa! He finally got the money fungal, and Clem is in his debt. That was terrible, terrible damage to the Terran army. A lot of the Ultras bruised, but there's no longer the critical mass of bio to really fight against this. The Hellbats, they don't have stim. Maybe next patch, but A disastrous fight, and now most of Clem's army supply is in medevacs. He has 30 supply of medevacs, which actually is too many no matter how many bio units you have. Kind of on autopilot, somewhat ironically, but the Corruptors will help him out with that. Ultras chewing through a command center that Clem didn't have the time to lift. Zerglings cutting off the reinforcements. Corruptors grinding their way through. Marauders stuck in the ground will stim again. Autumn colors across the board. But Reynor kept his hatchery alive. And that is the key part of all this. The Corruptors looking for an opportunity. Marines chasing through, but still, not even a Ghost Academy. Let alone any ghosts. A dramatic start to the series. Clem really trying to wield this composition, and it still may win out. But it seems like Reynor has a beat on it. The Fungals at the right place and right time have always been the potentially game-ending move for Zerg, but more so when your unit composition has the agility of a fully loaded school bus. And don't think too hard about that. But with Hellbats, Marines, and Marauders, well, the Hellbats have actually been stripped out of the composition. The Fungal means the Marines and Marauders will be as well. Still, though, the sheer amount of damage, the Fungal doesn't stop the units from doing damage. Killing them does, but that's sometimes a bit more difficult to process. And the Hellbats were split off. More drone kills as well. The Zerglings, Corruptors took out the Planetary Fortress at the 3 o'clock. A single Hellbat gets put into the corner and gets attention from 2 Ultralists and a Queen, which some people would pay money for. Meanwhile, the Infestors on the back line, the lack of ghosts, a glaring issue to deal with them. Clem relying on the sheer biomass, somewhat ironically, of the Terran army. He still has the army supply lead. I saw +1 mech weapons in production at one point. I think he canceled it in order to get more units. He has +3 mech armor, so it doesn't get any better than this. The medevacs almost always out of energy. Another triple drop to the north, but the economies are dropping on either side. Clem has literally no gas income, which is not as bad as it would be if he was going for any other composition. But here we are. And despite how good the fights have been for Reynor, the war is still in doubt. He needs to pin down the army one more time. He's limited the economy. The main base of Clem was lifted off. The Hellbat's doing a good job of thinning out the Zerglings. But now there's no income. And there's no SCVs! Because the Ultra's cleaving through, and now Clem has less SCVs than he started with. Down to 10. It's do or die time, and it looks like the second one is more likely. The Infestors being chased. There are 6 Infestors and 6 Ultras. A Master, and an Apprentice. And 6. The unit composition here. Corruptors, Infestors, and Ultralists as he chases down the army. Catches one group, knocks down a couple medevacs. Chewing through. Another one on the back line. The Marines next on the agenda. And it looks like the entree won't end there. The drop in the back, finding another angle, but the Ultras cleaving through. The Corruptors melting, and Reynor will run away with game number 1. And really setting the tone, I think. 630 Zerglings, 55 Hellbats, 65 Marauders. What a brawl. And in 20 minutes, losing nearly 70,000 resources. Which is multiple bases of resources per minute on average. Just a bloodbath to start things off. And I have my doubts it'll slow down at all. Game 2 will be on Old Republic. I'm not sure if that was Clem's new take on Terran versus Zerg, or just something he wanted to try out, but I'm interested to see more. The problem was, well, from the very start, he lost the Raven, and then he lost a bunch of SCVs. The fact he was able to get that far and still have a okay economy, not great, certainly wasn't great, Wasn't terrible. But losing over a dozen SCVs, as well as the early starport units, certainly hamstrung any attempts to gain momentum with the composition. And even then, it almost backfired on Reynor, because he got so greedy. He's like, well, I can do whatever I want. Okay, I can just go straight to Hive with just Zerglings. I do wonder if this is tailored specifically for Reynor, who has said that Banelings against Clem, especially pretty much at any point before you're maxed out, are a waste of gas. Because he's so good at minimizing them. Like, most of the time you're spending gas for minerals. That's just not a good trade. All right? Not to give you investment advice, but if you'd like to see if you'd like to subscribe to my ebook where I tell people how to get other people to like and subscribe, all you have to do is simply like and subscribe. So, Jimmy, put the promo code in the description. I'd like to take this time to thank our sponsors. Big Gabe. All right, Heromarine putting on this tournament, apparently in a LAN center, Xperien, in Cologne, Germany, where many of the top players showing up and facing off, and, well, not a surprising conclusion, the top 2 players at the end, but still a lot of fun. We got some more highlights, and if you happen to watch even more than I did live, make sure to recommend some of maybe the less high-profile series if you got an opportunity. Oof, okay, calm down. A little, not a lot. All right, be careful. We're not as young as these two still are, so... How's the back pain? I seriously doubt the tempo will slow down on average. But of course, the early games start. Reynor apparently comfortable enough to play out that macro game and still come out of... A lot of the time, Reynor... it's not that he's incapable. It's almost like a mental block, where he just does not like the late game spell count. And let's be honest here. No Zerg loves babysitting the most fragile units you can build in order to get the spells that do more than the rest of your army combined. But if you don't land the fungals, then Clem is just going to dodge, duck, dip, dive, and dodge away from every single fight. He's going to pick up into the medevacs and drop it back down like it's the hokey pokey. He's going to dance back behind his Hellbats, and the Banelings will explode, and suddenly there's still an entire Terran army behind. Even the Ultras will get kited down into oblivion. So, it is a dramatic exchange, and one that both sides are clearly very adept in, but no more adepts to be seen, as we got rid of the Protoss a while ago. Good news, right? A very quick lair out of Reynor. Not the quickest, but up there. Meanwhile, Clem going for a 3-2-1-1. 3 command centers, 2 barracks, a factory, and a starport. Focusing on getting 2 medevacs with stim marines out there, like his metaphorical father before him, who popularized this style of build. Well, pretty much at all points in StarCraft 2, but especially in Legacy of the Void. Clem, I think, has surpassed him in almost every way. Though Beyond still one of the top 5 Terrans in the world, Clem, just a need for speed and a flexibility in his strategies that Beyond doesn't showcase very often, if you've seen him lately. It's gonna be Mutas! And with the newest patch, about 4 months ago, some of the major changes, including the Spire now being 5 seconds quicker and 50-50 less, which, not huge, not tiny, allows Mutas to be a bit quicker of a threat, a bit more dramatically. Now, I would argue the biggest buff to Mutas is the unnerf of the Baneling. Banelings, for several years, Banelings have not gotten plus 5 HP when they finish the speed upgrade, going from 30 to 35. They don't have a lot of HP. They're not light units. They just don't have a lot of HP. But now, Banelings once again get that plus 5 HP buff alongside the speed upgrade. So once that kicks in, it makes mutas a lot more dangerous. That is part of why, in my opinion, mutas were less common. The thing is, mutas are not very common when hellbats are burninating across your mineral line, and the Spire just finished. Reynor is supply blocked. He couldn't even go mutas if he wanted to. The queens are holding the line for now. And, well, so far, the medevac goes down. The Zerglings are trickling out. The hellbat's still quite an existential threat to the Lings. And the Marines are going to gun down all the drones, which try to run away, but every single one will be taken down. The Zerglings may be going to try to trade their way out, but that single hellbat is still making it very difficult. The queen... Get off my creep! Brenda, they're not on the creep anymore. Susan, it's the idea of they were on their... There's a 30-second statute of limitations. I don't think that's true. Shut up, Susan. Not... It's the finals. What? Sorry, I... blacked out for 10 mutas on the way. So Reynor suffered heavy losses, losing drones at a key timing, very similar to last game. But now the muta's gonna try to turn it around and contaminate a tactical goop, going to delay the production of further medevacs, which is actually quite a nice snipe at this stage, right as the mutas come in. And Clem will definitely want to be stimming more often, is when he's going to be less capable of doing so. The mutas are spotted, and I feel like Clem already knew this was coming. He didn't need to see the Spire. It was kind of implied, as the reason Reynor took so much damage was clearly because he was teching him. If he had just focused on Lings, then despite the fire and fury of the Hellbats, he very likely would have been able to just take him out. But the mutas still finding a lot of success, as Clem did lose those early Marines in medevac. And he doesn't have the ability, because of that contaminate as well, to actually strike back at the moment. So, the creep finally spreading out again, as the queens were taxed quite heavily, both to defend and inject afterwards. 1-1 upgrades are now on the way for Reynor, but Clem's 1-1 is already done. Of course, the armory completed. One of the medevacs knocked out of the sky, as the mutas waiting for their opportunity, and they don't have to wait long. Still, a single Marine. You gotta be careful with every single unit stimming again. The medevac count is growing, but the longer it takes to build up a critical mass of medevacs, nice little split there, but the longer it takes to build up a critical mass of medevacs, the longer you have to spend your gas on things that aren't directly dealing with the mutas. A Thor is on the way. Double factory production to deal directly with the Mutiling Bane composition. And Reynor is committed. He's got Burrow on the way for Baneling mines. The mutas cutting off the 4th base potentially. The Lings and Banes splitting off a few. Gonna try to draw out the Widow mine hits would be huge right now. But it's not big enough. The mutas find a couple more SCVs. Maybe come back to defend. At least cutting off the reinforcements for now. Clem backing off the creep, anticipating a potential flank. Thor is here. Hydralisk Den is on the way. As Reynor oh, we gotta be careful with that thing. Picking up the Thor as the most awkward mobile turret, yet still quite a good one. Reynor shifting into the Hydralisk Den, just gonna split off a single Zergling. Deal with this. No drilling claws, though. I think Clem might be notified of that at this moment. Plus 1-1 is now completed for Reynor, giving him about a 1-minute window before Clem has the advantage again. No infestation pit. Reynor going to try to match the Terran army on the field. If he can get the edge, that would be massive. That's actually the biggest snipe he could possibly get. The SCVs, an awkward position. He's going to take a few of them. It's unlikely he'll get the NG bays themselves, but draws back the army yet again. Tries to juggle and successfully snipes off. Just bouncing around an elephant right there. The Thor, able to medevac stutter step and take out the mutas. Well, Lurker Den and Infestation Pit on the way. The trajectory of the late game is set. There is no Ghost Academy for Clem, but he does have 200 supply of Terran. And he's got a 2-upgrade advantage, which means the pressure is now on. There's still 8 mutas to potentially hunt this down. The double drop, the Widow Mines will burrow and take it out before they can get any real shots. The Thors being pin-cushioned by the Hydralisk, but the Banelings are exhausted before they can find any connections. The mutas pulled back together by the Queens. Drop is cleaned up. Hatchery taken down. Back down the center. One Thor badly bruised. A lot of the Bio and Autumn colors. Clem maybe digging too deep and possibly too greedily here. If he overstays his welcome, then there's a real chance that the Hydraslings and Banes can collapse before the reinforcements arrive. So he doesn't. He backs off. And that allows Reynor a little bit of time to get to Lurkers. They won't have range nor burrow speed, but it's better to have them and not need them than need them and not have them. Baneling Mines on the way. Widow Mines scampering forth. And a couple Baneling Mines at the right time could certainly make the difference here. The creep spread is mediocre, which gives a better opportunity for the mines to hit. Takes out a chunk, hits another. The one time that ancillary scan might have actually worked out. And the Lurker's gonna stall things out. But Clem, he sees the Lurkers, he splits, he stims. He's not intimidated by those stock Lurkers and knocks out half of them. More than half, only 2 remain. But a single Thor, what a save! Picks it up at the last second. The mutas, still 8 of them, were helping to clean up things on the other side. And the Thors gotta be very careful, tucked into the medevac, but there's reinforcements to deal with it all. And Reynor, I think, has carved out enough space to survive to get his hive tech online. But Clem has not been slouching when it comes to the tech progression himself. No, he's got ghosts already in production and a couple on the field. +3 infantry weapons and armor. The mutas have survived throughout all this, but it's far from thriving at this stage. The Baneling Mines helped undercut the push. The mutas, I doubt they'll be able to take out the impending planetary, but who knows. A drop is loaded up. Drilling Claws is completed. A snipe notifies Reynor in the most rude possible fashion of the existence of the ghost. A Nidus network on the way for the potential Lurkers. Widowmine drop. A single queen will make sure that the restricted layer space is kept under control. Overseers joining up. No Overlord speed is quite painful. Meanwhile, the Muta is trying to find an opportunity, and, well, the only opportunity they'll find is the unit's lost tab. But dragging the army back. A single Widowmine burrows. The planetary fortress will be overrun. The Lurkers burrow down the center, trying to catch Clem off guard, and mostly succeeding so far. The Zerglings will eventually take out the planetary at heavy cost, but the Terran army finds the opportunity to break the Lurkers, and it comes at great cost to themselves. But the Lurker line is dismantled. Every single one is knocked out. And Reynor retreats. He has 2,000 minerals, 600 gas, and he has no larva to spend it. He has 6 Lurkers now in production, using some of that gas, but he can't max out. It's a struggle of a situation. He never got any macro hatches. He's been on a very thin edge this entire time, and it could cut either way. Another exhausting game. Adrenal glands just now started. Reynor it wasn't a mistake. He was just looking. He's been prioritizing that gas, and that is a scary Terran army. A scared army, if you would. I think that's copyright infringement. Meanwhile, the Widowmine's caught out at the very start, though, getting a couple great hits. A Nidus at the back. Every second counts. He's using the mutas. That's what they're relegated to. Spotters, but very important ones. And Clem a little bit late on the draw. The Nidus will pop out. The Lurkers will burrow down. The scan comes through, but that's actually maybe too many Lurkers? No, he splits, he stims, and he deals with it yet again. The Lurkers right into the firing line. Reynor really thought he had the opportunity. And I don't think Clem timed it out to bait him into that fight, but it certainly worked out anyways. Another, the mutas just flying around as very mobile spotters. +3 carapace for Reynor. finally catching up somewhat in the upgrades. But the creep is barely existing outside of the bases. Clem is a bit strung out. The Widowmine's mixed into the army. No Hellbats this time. The Hydra's on the back. Gonna knock out the Thor. A musket line of ghosts. Another Nidus in the main. There's Clem. He has enough units back at home to defend. Another run-by over to the left side. Both sides at hyper speed right now trying to deal with all this. The Nidus will be taken out. And it's so close. Clem has the clear advantage. He has the bank. He has the economy. He has the standing army. But if he looks the wrong way for half a second, or this one infestor unburrows and throws out the fungal onto the medevacs, of which, again, Clem has way too many. And the Widowmines helping him out with that. The medevacs taking a massive bruising here, and the Hydras will make sure they're cut down to size. Only 4 medevacs remain, but the Lings and Banes have been removed from the field, and the Hydras are exposed. A fusion core is on the way back at home. He's trying to draw in the Widowmine hits, unburrow micro, and Clem starting to grind through, tearing up absolutely everything Reynor throws at him. And Reynor, he's spent all of the bank. He has the larva, but not the money. There's just enough Zerglings, I think, to break the critical mass, maybe. The Marauders in front, and the Ghosts aren't so bad behind. Reynor's down 40 supply. Still chasing the medevacs. Does he have lunge? Technically, yes. Another Nidus, but there's nothing to put in it. How many lurkers? 0. That's not very many. Advanced ballistics on the way. Spots one of the infestors. He whipped out an EMP blindly. I mean, you take an educated guess. But he EMP'd the infestor without detection. That solves the problem one way or another. And Reynor, by the skin of his weird Zerg teeth, will survive. But for how long and at what cost? The infestor taken out. The single lurker is barely a speed bump. The Hydras are not enough. The Marines are rolling over the field. The medevacs, the survivors may be mostly out of energy, but in the end, it doesn't even matter. The Clempire strikes back in Game 2 with a very solid early timing, and he never really let the advantage slip. Reynor did a great job of grinding out some space with the mutas, of carving out some of the Marines with the lurkers, but he never found that fight that really let him claw back into it. He was always just gasping for air until Clem cut off the rest of it. How many Zerglings this time? Only 500. Those are rookie numbers. I don't know, a couple more minutes would have seen it double, but 1-1. Decent start. Well. Game 3. I'm going to White Rabbit. Another macro-oriented map. I don't know if there's maps I would say aren't. I guess Mothership could be the home of cheeses. Ruby Rock is usually a bit more early game oriented. With these two, again, we're playing Reynor versus Clem, not Terran versus Zerg right now. There is a distinct difference. This is on a complete other level that us mortals can barely relate to. And not just because of the generational gap. Sorry, Grandpa. Yeah, tell me what Unk means. Okay, that's what I'm saying. That's a real question. I don't under... You know what? Moving on. I think it's a compliment. Maybe I should stop thinking. Moving on. Still moving on. Game 3. With an awkward transition back into the early game. It's hard to point out. It's not hard to point out where things went wrong, but the decision to rush to mutas, and again, Clem breaking out the Hellbats, and they didn't even do particularly well. But, well, I'd say killing all the drones and dozens of Zerglings while delaying the Spire timing, or the Muta timing at least, would be particularly well. So, you know what? I sorry for undervaluing Hellbats for the every time this week. But, and then switching into the much more typical M&M composition. Well, M&M. You got the Marines, Marauders, the Mines, the Medevacs, the Magos, the Thors as well. The SCV gonna block the third hatchery and encourage the less defensible one that is a bit closer on the attack path. Also some good siege tank angles. Interesting that Reynor, instead of trying to take the other third, actually just pulls back. So, not looking to get anything sniped off here. Queen pops out, politely yet firmly. Asks the Reaper to leave. Or no. Still no third base. Reynor, yet again, he's mining 2 out of 3 in gas. Very likely going to be a quick lair. Clem does not, he did not get his third command center before Starport. So it's a slightly more conservative version of the 111. The barracks, the factory, the Starport, the Destiny Cloudfist build I heard called in a fever dream of some kind. Probably never called that, but you never know. And in fact, when he gets into the main, there's still no lair. He has 136 gas in the bank. He's gonna start it now, right? Oh my, really? This is widely considered to be a dick move in most cultures. Engineering bay block just to get 3 or 4 extra seconds. It will cost him the SCV as well. Was it worth it? Now, in terms of quantitatively, no. Qualitatively, the emotional damage there. And Reynor just, I'm surprised we didn't even see an Evo chamber to start things off. This, really, Clem? Fool me once, and I will get fooled again. The Zergling's coming in. He snuck them by into the main base. Oh, no! It's a disaster yet again, though. You got to be careful. The boys themselves are kind of dangerous. The Hellions? Clem says, well, I'll fight fire with fire in the most literal sense. 10 SCVs dead, a Liberator helping out. 13! 13! He may never financially recover from this. But killing 5 drones helps. And a whole lot of mining time lost. But Clem does not have a third command center. Now, Reynor just now is finishing his third hatch. But it's a 14 worker gap. And Clem is not going to have that extra command center of SCV production, nor mules with which to pull his economy up by its automated bootstraps. So that is a massive blow and near critical damage. If Reynor had taken no damage whatsoever, then we'd be looking at a nearly game-ending situation. But for now, it's just a struggle. A hard wall was created as he zones out. The secondary Zergling counter is cleaned up. He cancels the evolution chamber now that the threat has mostly passed. And the third command center just started for Clem. So again, the early damage has kind of flip-flopped back and forth. No, Brent! Oh, that was... the Clem trying to run by. But the Zerglings say, stop right there, criminal scum. Which is remarkably articulate, but, you know, a lot of people underestimate Zerglings. Not Reynor, and not Clem, actually. This mic. Oh, come on, bro. Oh, look at this. Oh, Juke Skywalker over here. The Hellions, 5 kills, 7 kills. A small victory after a slew of mediocre defeats. But killing off the rest of those Zerglings helps limit Reynor's economy just a bit more, but so far he's running away with it. Again, that third command center, or lack thereof, is the defining characteristic of this game so far. It's not even that Reynor has to take a guess. He got into the main. Unless Clem somehow stuck a command center out on the map, Command centers are pretty conspicuous. So I'm sure he took note of it. And that's probably why he had the follow-up lings instead of just pumping out drones as well. But Reynor, looking for a follow-up himself. He's got 7 Sloaches in production, but not for long as Roach speed has begun. And he is investing in them as well. Plus 1 ranged attack. I mean, besides the Roach speed. The Roach speed is kind of a given. There's a reason that there's a speed upgrade for pretty much every Zerg unit. Creep itself is effectively a speed upgrade. So, getting up close and personal, because we all know that Terrans are not big on social interaction. I mean, that's kind of a given. 1-1 on the way for Clem. Kind of pulling together that more standard sort of composition. He's definitely going to want siege tanks as opposed to Hellbats this time. We'll see if he flips over. This actually looks like a kind of a desperate all-in out of Clem. Though he is still building SCVs. Oh, he's running into a brick wall. He didn't see... He saw the Roach Warren. Oh no, this is a disaster. This is very bad. No, run away! Wait, what? Not run away? I meant Clem run away, by the way. I could have played it off. Like I meant Roaches run away, but I did not. I'm very surprised. Just didn't want to take any sort of damage to the kiting Marines. 1-1 upgrades finishing for both sides simultaneously. 152 to 104 supply with that Stefano-style Mass Roach. And a whole bunch of Ravagers in production as well. Reynor pumping out the Overlord so we could actually max out. 63 drones is more than enough. Clearly, as Reynor just slaps Clem down and puts himself on match point, at least to maybe take back a series. So, Reynor with a much more clear-cut victory in Game 3, as Clem, well, you can't leave the door open. This isn't Canada, all right? Ye old Zerg Rush. A strategy literally older than Reynor himself, yet still an effective one. Getting a bunch of Zerglings in their base while they're looking the other way. Well, it doesn't really matter where they're looking once the Zerglings are in their base, but I digress and progress. The madness, at least. Game 4 is on Winter Madness. Like and subscribe so I can get mental health care. Well, Patreon is what. Probably gonna need that. Well, Clem, it's all about that early damage. We had it relatively even out in the first 2 games, but that's the thing. These two are committing so hard that at some point they're gonna get burned. These are constantly huge commitments, whether it's Hellbat timings, or Zergling run-bys, or Roach swells, things that if their opponent had production tab hacks, or they just took a lucky guess, would be an almost direct loss right there. Like we just saw. Okay. Reynor gambled that Clem was not going to sit back with siege tanks. Instead, he was going to go... I think Reynor felt like he got lucky with the Hellbat timing. Now, Clem has done a Hellbat timing in every game so far, one way or another. I doubt he suspected it again, especially since Clem scouted the Roach Warren. So it feels like he didn't really adapt to the situation. So now it's going to be at the back and maybe even front of his mind. The existence of Roaches and Hellbats may be relegated to their more niche position as opposed to the staple that they pretend to be. They're like the fax machines of Terran, alright? Technically, people still use them for reasons, but there are better options most of the time. The original texting. First SCV. I've noticed Clem every single game has sent the SCV scout out and actively, actively attempted or succeeded at blocking the third. But Reynor split the difference. I think this is the base he wanted to take as well. The SCV followed, and the second drone slipped out, and he got his hatchery online. Oh, going pretty deep on the creep, though. So might be able to pick off the drone. No. Panda pops out. And we'll push it away. 2 command centers. And 3 hatcheries. Well, 3 total command centers and 3 hatcheries. We're back to basics. The 1-1-1 out of Clem. I'm assuming there will be a starport. That's not actually a guarantee. Usually you'd have already built the second barracks at this stage. Queens trying to double team the Reaper. Reaper not into that. Your loss. Whoa. Almost catches it on the way out. This is a Maru build. Alright. Clem, instead of an early timing, is going for a much later timing. 3 CCs, 2 engineering base, 1 barracks, 0 fucks. This is as greedy as you can possibly get while still pretending to actually have units. Of course, you could just build all this and not have anything back at home, but the Hellions to bait Reynor into responding like this is a standard 1-1-1, and Reynor has not been very active with those scouting overlords, as it's actually quite difficult to reliably get them into the base on most maps against someone like Clem who's actively looking for. So Clem will be able to get his upgrades and his production online, and Reynor seems like he has no intention of trying to get aggressive. Like, he can't know. This is the poker game part. And also the rest, but this is the most important. The opening hand. Reynor's going to get the relatively quick lair. That one not as much of a rush. Now we have to see whether he gets evolution chambers or more gas geysers. The evolution chambers for that mass zergling style. More gas geysers, more likely to be mutas. Occasionally hydras, but yeah. Single Evo chamber. Clem going about his SimCity build order effectively back at home. The double gas at the natural as well. Full saturation. So both players going to have a booming economy. And when they clash, it will likely be with maxed out armies. Or near to it. Depends a little bit on what Reynor decides to do with the lair, but the fact he doesn't even have a baneling nest on the way, I think this is a rush to hive. So there's a chance Reynor can leapfrog when it comes to the tech. Hydralist den. All right. Not getting too greedy. And for once, that might be a mistake. The Overlord dropping some creep will mildly inconvenience this command center before it lands. That's about it for now, but, you know. The Zerglings, is it worth it, though? There's so many Marines, he doesn't want to be caught without them. It was tempting, but not the most masterful bait out of Clem. And I don't think it was intentional either. He just had a bunch of Marines in the right spot at the right time. A lurker den. So Clem just scanned the lair and the Hydra den. After the scan, Reynor made a lurker den, which is something. Clearly trying to take advantage of the information that Clem has and try to give him something he doesn't. But we already saw how non-hive tech lurkers are barely a speed bump for the Terran army when well controlled. But if you can surprise them... In fact, I think Reynor's doing a lair tech lurker all in. He does not have the infestation pit. He's got 75 drones, which is a pretty okay economy. But he has no upgrades in production. So... well, we'll see. Combat shield a little on the later side for Clem. Guns down a queen. 5 lurkers on the way. We'll see. It's a bold move. We'll see if it works out for him. Am I skeptical enough? I don't know. just asking questions. I'm not optimistic, but I would be very happy to be wrong. Oh, disgust. And he brought the medevac as a spotter. The queens, with their fancy little toes right on the edge of the liberation zone. And if you want to see more queen toes, you can check out my Dronely fans. But for now, and so, with the last patch, the Liberator was reduced in vision. But if you bring a spotting unit, then they can still see the full range. So it was a bit of a nerf to Liberators just being sent out on their own and killing things from untouchable positions. But unfortunately, I think you literally can't hit it. The minerals are right up against the edge. And that's one of those geometrically offensive angles that... Wow. Well, that's very rough here. And the Widowmont... 20 kills. And 5 more. And the most important thing was the momentum. Reynor needed the lurkers to be a surprise. Okay. And they very much are not. Again, Clem is finding the lurkers on the other side of the map. And that gives him more than enough time to respond to it. He can't break it. Not easily. But he's setting up a contain on the Zerg, which is quite a rare/difficult scenario, but uniquely suited to this exact one. The Queen's holding the lurkers together, the transfuses, but the Widowmine's punching through, taking out the lurkers and Queens alike. 2 lurkers survive. Hive is finally done. That Liberator still annexing a single mineral patch, which means it effectively controls the base. Maybe, okay, like 3 mineral patches. That's actually disgusting. Reynor is microing his drones to mine from the other patches, which is better than nothing. The lurkers again, the Widow mines. It's like a select all army hockey out of Clem there. But Clem is maxed out. Reynor not even close right now. And, well, it's surprised he's not making more lings with it. The Marines need to go to rehab or back in the medevacs, but for now, gonna hold the line. They have a 3 upgrade advantage over those lings, but the numbers are still not good enough. Viper gathering energy mid-fight. Venn diagram of freedom with the Liberators and one at the backside, and Clem is just tearing through everything. It's... the hatchery's gone, which will free up these drones from the liberation zone at least. There's lurkers everywhere, and range is done. But Reynor is beaten back to 3 bases. It's not getting any easier. Three upgrades. There's still Widow Mines holding the edge of the creep. More Liberators that cannot be easily dealt with. 17 lurkers. And Clem is trying to deal with them without ghosts. The Liberators pushing the point forward. Fusion Core is on the way. Three now completed for Clem, giving him a 4 upgrade advantage over the Lings and 3 over the Hydras and Lurkers. Ghost Academy's done. More command centers. The Bioarmy trying to drag in the Widowmine hits. Somewhat successful. Parasitic Bomb hitting every single one of those Liberators. Quarantine's 1. There's only a few Hydras for anti-air. They're scrambling underneath. The Lurkers will slice past the Bio. The Hydra is trying to get behind the Liberators. He's scanned. He's going to take out so many Lurkers with it. Still going forward. And the Porcupine defense here from Reynor is effective. And in fact, well, is it working? Part-time? He lives. But we have to ask ourselves that question. Have you liked and subscribed? And at what cost? Oh, that has to be hold fire lurkers. He's pre-scanning. Clem is anticipating it. Where are the lurkers? Where are they? Yeah, the pre-scans there. Parasitic bomb could be devastating, but blinding cloud might be needed. Fires off one. The bioarmy, the lurkers trying to cut off the reinforcements. Only a couple lurkers back at home. He's slurping up the extractors. This hatchery taking so much damage. Reynor with a desperate counterattack. The supplies are even. There's not that much back at home for Clem and the lurkers, but there's no answer to the liberators. Really on either side right now, as they're just ping cushioning target practice. The lurkers are slicing through, and Reynor finding even more damage. Clem has not been respecting the lurkers to the extent maybe he should. SCV is going to go down, but there's more CCs than a poorly formatted corporate email chain right now. The command center count is, well, several of them up in the air, just like this game. The Liberator stranded, and this is the best case scenario for Reynor. Chasing the army back home, knocking out the Liberators that are looking the wrong way. The Hydras don't have range nor speed, which these Hydras are the stock version, and they try to upsell you on premium. But honestly, it's worth it. Not having the Hydra upgrades and trying to use them to take out Liberators is an excruciating experience. Though Reynor has managed to claw and needle his way back. The EMP on the Viper, though. The Hydra's caught out and gunned down. And it feels like GGG. Reynor with the Italian GG. And we're all tied up. Clem, one game away from taking home Big Gabe's Xperioncraft number 3. And most of $5,000. Reynor needs to turn it around yet again. A bit of an interesting style there. But I feel like the lurkers were a bit of an own goal. He survived, but he certainly wasn't thriving. And despite the supply, Clem had all the counters to lurkers. He just was waiting for the right opportunity to bring them all together. In fact, it seemed like he avoided the ghosts until it was clear that lurkers were the only potential unit. But to be clear, and you'll know that the people in the comments who skipped past and didn't understand what was happening, assuming it goes a certain way, you know they're not as committed. But you, my friend, whether you're falling asleep and waking up because I made dramatic noises, or you've been watching intently the whole time, well, one, you're breathtaking, you're beautiful, and you've already liked and subscribed. And two, you need to understand, if Reynor wins this game, we have another best of 3, because then the series are tied up. Clem wins 1, and Reynor wins 1, because the winner's bracket. That is Clem's benefit from already beating Reynor earlier in the tournament. But if Clem wins this, he's secured his spot as the champion. And then we'll have another... Wait, no. Reynor, another best of 3. I somehow got turned around in my own explanation. Ooh. Jimmy, edit that out. That was concerning. No, I'm not a senior. It's just a moment. Sorry. So the full... Honestly, if Reynor... I mean, not Reynor. If Clem had not gone for such a greedy style, if he had gone for a more middle-of-the-road, like Hellion Banshee, I think the lurkers would have done better. The problem was that Clem already had pretty much what he wanted by the time the lurkers came out. And instead of still building up to that composition, he's already built it out. He's already got the foundation. He can add on to it. Lurkers, ghosts, extra command centers, things that the lurkers couldn't really feasibly deal with. So Reynor's attempt, both players have attempted a bit of a sidestep of the standard meta. Just like there's a sidestep of the first SCV. Fool me once. What? He takes it down the center. A bold move. That screams roach all. All right? It screams awkwardly like a child on an airplane. And all the Brenda about churlish, insubordinate. That Brenda, calm down. No! I haven't been calm since the war, Lucille. Don't talk to her, Lucille. Shut up, Susan. Sorry, I blacked out for a moment. Metabolic boost. On the way. And Clem, 3, 2, 1, 1. Okay, maybe it's not a guaranteed roach all-in, but having this base out there, sticking out like a disjointed or multi-jointed Zerg thumb, is clearly going to be a focal point. Also gets the creep almost halfway across the map just by existing. So it's an obvious staging area and vulnerable point. So I'm very interested to see, with everything on the line, what Reynor does about it. Somehow that grenade didn't land. Actually, a little bit lucky about that one. Roach one's on the way. Not particularly early, but certainly not late. The Reaper needs to be careful not to stub its toe, which it won't because it has a jetpack and it just kind of floats over the field. Like a High Templar, but much more useful. Queens come up again and... Still. Just constantly teasing the Queens. Queen's not very happy about it. Trying to sneak by. I'm not sure if this was intentional. The way Clem's moving those Hellions. Looks like he actually took the wrong path. And there's 5 roaches on the way. Everybody expected 5 roaches. I'm sure Clem expected roaches. Reynor will oblige. But it's just 5 sloaches. He's not going all in, at least this moment. Just enough to make sure that the Reaper Hellion has no real chance of moving in. Gonna scamper across. The fact that no Banshee has showed up yet, he's making a single Spore Crawler, anticipating something like that, but it's gonna be a double medevac drop. Wow, that's so quick. So back in the day, Beyond with his 2-1-1 timing, which was literally 2 command centers straight into 2 medevacs of Marines with Stim. That would hit at approximately 5:15. Clem is going to have 3 bases. He went for Hellion Reaper and double engineering bay behind it at like 15 seconds quicker. Builds have gotten so optimized that just a few seconds later, less than 1 Marine production cycle, Clem has so much more. And yes, I know I'm kind of burying the lead here, as the Roaches were able to poke at the front. The Zerglings will nibble on a few extra SCVs. I just wanted to point out how efficient this build was. But unfortunately, Reynor has severely undercut its potential by cutting down many of the units with those early Roaches. The Queens really struggling to chase all this down. Gets into the main. The double drop, mostly full of Marines, but there should be enough Roaches to box it out for now. The Queens. This is restricted lair space. I think he knows, but Queens once again struggling at every turn to deal with Clem's well-controlled air units, exploiting the fact that the Queens are no longer nearly as mobile in the skies as they were many years ago. I think it's just 4 lore accurately, more like 24, at least 16. Practically. Just, oh, wow. Yikes. Well, the Roaches holding it together, the creep continuing to extend forward. Infestation picked quite quickly. Infestors could be great. Hive, just as good, if not better. 1-1 is on the way for Clem, nearly completed. Armory's lined up for the 2-2 to start. The Roaches, +1 Carapace is on the way. And Reynor is not leaning everything into an all-in. That infestation pit means he has options. But I wouldn't be surprised if he tries to slam the door shut on Clem here with the initial Roach Ravager. He's managed to hold on to his front base. Not that Clem has made a serious effort to deal with it, but it's now fully mining, even double gases. So we're going to see some Ravagers very likely in the future. Well, right now, actually, with 3 in production. Road speed and +1 carapace about to complete. There will be a 1 upgrade advantage for Clem, but the supply, well, quantity has a quality all its own. And that is what these roach builds are all about. Reynor nearly maxed out. I remember back in the day maxing out at 8 minutes with mass roaches on like barely 3 bays. But instead, Reynor has all of this going from roaches, ravagers, zerglings, 4 bases. But the double drop, there's not that much at home, as Clem has almost half his army out of the field, and he splits the difference in double kill on the tanks. Mr. Zergachev, tear down this wall. The supply depots will be taken out, and Clem, he has almost no home to go back to, so he's going to work on Reynors. A base trade has begun. The hatchery's holding on for now. The reinforcement's going to cut off some of this, almost loses one of the medevacs. And Clem, a couple Widowmines on the high ground. I think Reynor spotted it. Just going to take down the command center itself. Somehow kept the 4th hatchery alive. And Reynor, just a few corrosive biles away from dragging us into a second series and turning things around against Clem. He's bringing all of his army back. The upgrades are still far too far away. 20 SCVs already dead. The economic damage is critical. And if he can't clean up this army, he's going to be cleaned out in general. The Widowmines will be targeted. Corrosive bile also very good against roaches. But there's more where that came from, aptly named. Clem still cutting off the reinforcements. But the Zerg keep coming and they don't stop coming. Another wave forces him back. Medevac's running out of energy and life. The roaches and ravagers thinning out dramatically. And somehow Clem is holding the line. Another wave of corrosive bile. But it's not enough. Reynor wins the series and forces the elimination match. A best of 3. Only 1 player will rule them all. And now Reynor has tied up the total series with Clem. 1-1. A well-executed... Well, the roach all-in was there. It just took a little longer than I expected. And Clem getting a bit greedy, sending out not 1 but 2 sets of drops. Which means... he was left without nearly enough at home to defend. Reynor delayed the roach timing just a bit. I think partially because he got that 4th base and all those upgrades. He delayed it just a bit, and that was enough to lull Clem into a false sense of security. I don't know how much that factored in, but it certainly didn't help. As we go back to Winter Madness, we reset the maps. I'm not entirely sure what the process is for deciding what the maps will be. I assume it's the same as the other ones. But we've agreed upon Winter Madness as Game 1 of Series 2. No crazy all-ins. Sorry, refreshing. Usually we'd have a bit of a break and reset, but no, we do it live from replay. Thanks to Big Gabe and Heromarine and the Xperioncraft Cup. Really cool to see a high-profile yet very chill LAN tournament. It looked like a lot of fun, and they had pizza. And now I'm hungry. But we still have games to cast, and knowing these two, this could be another hour. So like and subscribe so I can feed me. Oh, shut up. Last time, the attempted lurker, I'm even going to call it kind of an all-in. Because rushing to lurkers is so expensive that you've eliminated most of the tech tree as an option. If they put real pressure on like Clem did, you don't have the gas to go mutas or even to really fill out your upgrades. Because you need to get those lurkers in such a number that they're forced into things like liberators and ghosts. The SCV blocking. And Reynor did get a drone out there. He's going to take the other base. Clem preemptively blocking the base that Reynor took last time. He's not waiting to get bamboozled by the drones, but instead, just making sure that he blocks the base that Reynor likely was intending to take if nothing else was happening. Oh, the Reaper. At least they're on different sides of the map, so I don't get intense deja vu, just mild. Queens driving the Reaper away. Clem with 3 CCs. Watch Clem do the same build. 3 CCs. No. Starport? Yes. Not gonna get too greedy. It's not unlikely that Reynor, both players likely checking the replay, at least skimming over it afterwards. You don't get too much time to do so usually, but at least skimming quickly to see exactly what the early game builds were. Clem mixing in the more standard fare back to the barracks factory starport. Reynor modding with, back to 3 in gas relatively early. Making sure he gets that layer. The Queen's ambling. Stoically marching down. Unfortunately, not quite quick enough to stop the drone from being forced into a spore crawler. And, you know, that's kind of crazy. For the first time in 6 games now, a cloak banshee is the choice. Tries to sneak in. I think Reynor will be ready. Would be surprised if he didn't start a lair. Meow. Still trying to deal with the Hellions. The Queen's on either side. Another huge round of drones. Already up to 46 with 5 more in production. Just enough lings to box out the Hellions. The cloak will be done before any overseers can be out. So if there aren't spore crawlers, that could be devastating. Even a single cloak banshee can undercut most of your game plan. But the overlords should be able to spot it. Ooh. Spore crawlers are on the way. Oh yeah, the cloak relatively quick. And will likely find a few drone kills. Meanwhile, the Queen's making sure to box out the Hellions. This is rough. The drones are... He clearly wants to intercept the drones as they're all stacked up at the natural. And it might be worth the effort. The Queen's targeting the Banshee. The Zerglings scrambling back to defend. Only 3 kills thus far. And Reynor has also taken a 4th hatchery. So... It isn't critical damage, but... It certainly hurts. And you can see the dip in income there. Oh no! One of the Queens! Incinerated. Another one body blocked! But the creep should be enough. Banshee finds a spot, and spore crawlers, not so good for anything but helping point out where that Banshee actually is. And now Clem is evening up the worker count quite quickly, as Reynor has been forced to replace drones and build more Zerglings. It's an old build. It is the oldest build, really, in Terran versus Zerg, besides Proxy Rex Bunker Rush in StarCraft 2. The Hellion Banshee with Cloak Opener, because it just has so many options. The Hellions force out Zerglings. The Banshees force detection. You do a lot of economic damage before you even do any damage. All the things that aren't drones are force drones into spores. And even a slightly mispositioned spore gives Clem the angle to kill several more drones. 7 dead. Reynor at 68, which is not great, not terrible. But compared with Clem's 65 SCVs and any amount of mules, certainly is not the greatest place for Zerg to be. Now, the 1-1 upgrades are going to be in favor of Clem as well. +1 melee and Carapace are the choice. No Hydra Den, no Infestation Pit for Reynor. He's going to try to match Clem on the field. A huge counterattack will at least cut off some reinforcements. Some Banelings on the way to help box this out. A single siege tank with it. The reinforcements are scrambling back. A single siege tank will cut off the rest. The Hellions themselves, and Reynor gets the jump. The Hellions being microed back. He doesn't want to be caught between a rock and a hard place, and he won't be. Clem very much will. The Banelings roll in. Clem looking the other way. And Reynor strikes back. The Queens finish off the tank. The drop is loaded up and routed away. And Reynor takes the initiative, and with it, is able to grab back some map control. Baneling speed is now done. The armory is completed for Clem, meaning he can start those 2-2 upgrades. But doesn't quite... Yeah. It's going to be 30, 45 second advantage. The double drop finding that jammed in little angle that Reynor really... Oh no, oh no. Oh, the target fire! Turned on his aimbot there, made sure the Banelings went down. The Queens gonna hit him on the way in and maybe on the way out, but unfortunately, DJ Clem is dropping the base. The spawning pool is probably the softest or best target for Reynor to offer up. Another one taken down. Widowmine slams home. Not critical damage, but certainly painful. And this time around, no, get off my creep! Okay, Brenda. Well, yeah, they deserve revenge. Okay. The Queens moved to gathering, and I'm surprised, Clem, with a lack of object permanence there. The Queens still in position to deal with it, and now the spores on either side, double teaming the medevacs. And wait a second, almost taking out both, which would have been an absolute disaster. It's marginally avoided, as both those medevacs a strong gust of wind away from death. But here comes the main push. This has all been a sideshow. Reynor with 85 drones, Clem with 77 SCVs behind it. A full mid-game army. A Widowmine takes a huge chunk of the front line out. Reynor needs a flank, and he comes around the side. The Widowmines will help cut it off, but the siege tank will be taken out as well. A lot of the Banelings easily targeted. The textbook splits. Oh my, I can't believe it's not butter. Look at that spread out of Clem. And suddenly a 20 supply gap opens up. So he has to be a little bit careful. Those medevacs still badly bruised. A lot of them taking more damage in the fight, but he wasn't able to clean up the mines. The Banshees have both been brought back home and will recloak. And the bio is still rolling across the map, and the infestation pit has just begun. That means Reynor is stuck on this level of tech for a while yet. The Hydra count is okay. 9 Hydras is enough to drive back smaller groups of units, but the Queens are called into the fray yet again. Another hit, but it's better a Queen takes one on the chin than 35 Zerglings in one of these fights. 2-2 is now done. The most dangerous time for Reynor in this game so far. He dealt with the Banshees, he dealt with the initial attacks and the multi-prong, but now Clem is maxed out with an upgrade advantage. And so far, Reynor hasn't been able to do much in terms of counter damage. And the hatchery under attack to the north will be driven back. The transfuses keep it together for now. There's no attack upgrades on the Queen, so they're really struggling as the Frenchman continues to gun them down. But so far, holding it together. Widowmines. Was that a Baneling mine? I believe so, but Clem's supply is still at 200, so I'm not sure how effective it really was. Mines of both flavors scattered throughout. And Reynor is scraping towards a hive. A whole bunch of Zerglings are actually dragged back towards the main. The hatchery will be sniped off before even a transfuse. Another chunk of units is taken out by the... Oh, huge Bane mine! I didn't even notice it, but almost no Marines are left behind. Straight into the units lost tab. Yes, let's watch it again. That's not what I meant, but here we are. We see the supply beforehand. He drives right by. And what a critical timing as well. About 10 Marine. Oh, we don't have the battle report, which is what screws up the hotkeys. The players forgetting to add it in, but... So far, Reynor, again, able to hold it together for now. +2 carapace is completed. He's working on +1 ranged attack. A moment away. Now finished. Takes out one of the medevacs full of units. And so far, Reynor has survived. If he gets that hive done, lurkers with range, there's no Ghost Academy. Clem doesn't have a massive bank with which to fall back on. This is the most even situation we've had so far at this stage of the game. Lurkers in production for Reynor. Clem working on 3-3, but is not there yet. More Widowmines will burrow. Another attack up to the north side. Both players strained to the limit, and neither breaking quite yet. It's just the creep spread, though. You can tell how much pressure Clem has been able to put on by the fact the creep spread is barely outside of the bases. Constantly scanning to deal with it. He has only 3 orbital commands, which leaves him quite under-equipped to deal with the lurkers. Lurker range is in production. Adrenal glands is on the way. +2 ranged attack and melee. Both now started. Matching Clem on the field. He splits, he stims! And the lurkers unburrow in an act of suicidal cowardice. He survives with 1. Was it worth it? I mean, he had his lurkers out there. And he will clean up the army at heavy cost. And another Venn diagram of freedom yet again sets up. The Queen's gonna be gunned down one by one, but eventually the Liberators will be dealt with. A massive drop in towards the main. As Clem gonna try to get the damage done. The spawning pool with adrenal glands, a massive snipe, it's denied. Just seconds away. And Clem is tearing through the rest. He picks up, he gets out. And for now, Reynor is able to hold on to it. Clem actually losing a lot of supply, but sniping off the spawning pool at this time is certainly going to help. The lurker den. He's adding more lurkers in because he can't even build Zerglings right now. Reynor still holding on to his bases, but he's still done nothing to stop Clem's economy. The income has been dead even. The ghosts are in production. The creep has receded again. He's pushed it all the way back. 3 more orbital commands simultaneously. The ghosts are revealed. And no cloak is on the way. The only cloak is for Banshees so far. Reynor trying to pick a fight. But the rocks are quite a choke point that he could easily suffocate in. And again, through all the fire and fury, these players. And in the second series, the most intense, the closest game, neither player with key mistakes, but taking difficult fights. Widowmines picked off. The battle slows down slightly. A Liberator, but a Spore Crawler can't outflank it, I think. Not again. Not this Liberator again. Well, that is certainly something. A single queen, it can't actually hit. As the geometrical kerfuffle there. Clem finding the single spot on the map, a Liberator, is untouchable by ground units. There's 1 Viper on the way to deal with it, but the amount of time and position he gave up may cost him. Reynor is maxed out, but he can't do anything to fight this army. The hatchery just had to give it another knock on the door, but Reynor with a massive counterattack, just a few lurkers mixed in, the rest of them coming by, multiple orbitals under fire. In fact, there are 4 orbitals here. If he takes them out, it's that much harder to deal with the lurkers. The entire Terran army is scrambling back to defend. It's already in autumn colors. There's barely any medevacs. And Reynor seizing the moment right now. Getting up into the main base. The lurkers burrowed in between. Another orbital command is clawed to death by the Zerglings, leaving him with 5, which is not a small number. Make that 4. And the third one in the main is vulnerable as well. The scans are starting to run out. In fact, he only has the scans in the main, the base that's about to be hit. And suddenly Clem is very much on the back foot, and the lurkers are slicing underneath them. 3 more lurkers built mid-fight will burrow down and slice through, eviscerating the front line. And there's not enough health left, and not enough medevacs in the sky. Another one is taken down. The production being camped by the lurkers, but Reynor eventually getting picked apart by the reinforcements and the army. Reynor, though, on the front. There are 2 more orbital commands on the way. He remains with 4, which is not as bad as it could be. 4 more racks being built, as Clem lost a lot of his production. Seven more lurkers in production. The match, well, neither of them able to replace their supply. The economy's dwindling, though the income gap, again, swinging back to Reynor. After knocking out multiple mining bases, a few dozen SCVs, Clem can't really afford to drop too many mules or he risks. He's scanning to make sure he has a beat on the situation. He knows this hatchery's on the way. This one is implied. He hasn't seen it yet, but he knows Reynor's re-expanded there. And again, splitting and working his way across. The Zerglings will counterattack. And there's no wall. He gets into the main. The production yet again. And Reynor gonna try to use this opportunity to stab forward, but a counterattack. Clem with a couple medevacs, some mines, a little bit of everything scattered in. The Zerglings burrowing in every corner of the main. The Lurkers burrowing down the front. The Vipers yanking out one of the Liberators. Hydras take out the other. Hatchery goes down. Drones with it. SCV's vulnerable. The Planetary will be cut and sliced and cross-hatched to pieces by the Lurkers. And an attack in 3 different places. The Armory will be taken down. The production under attack as well. Clem slapping together a defense, but it's falling apart. The Hydras, there's not much answer to the Liberators here. And the Lurkers will eventually be stutter stepped down. Good micro, if only accidental for the most part, as Clem holds on. Meanwhile, the Zerglings in the main base cleaned up before, he gets a ghost, which is a lot better than you could expect. Another round of Lurkers on the way. As Reynor keeps the pressure on, because if he leaves Clem for a moment, he might never be able to retain this position. But the Lurkers will pop out into a world of fire. The Liberators overhead. Clem is fighting this battle, and he might be winning it. Does he have the scans just in time? The Lurkers are gunned down. The Hydras are pushed back, and Reynor is knocked out just like that. He needed to keep the knife to his throat, because the moment it left it, Clem was gonna turn it around. There is no beating that army if it's all together. Reynor knew that, Clem knew that, and now we all know that. Clem now once again 1 game away from the entire tournament. And up until the last 5 seconds, it was unclear whether that would be the case. I mean, it was gonna be for either side, but somehow, the higher the pressure, the more these two rise to it. That was a sentence. All right. Game number 2 / game number 7. Clem is on match point for Big Gabe's Xperioncraft Cup. The LAN tournament in person, staring each other down. Though I don't think these two are strangers to LAN tournaments at this stage of StarCraft 2, but one of the most epic and dramatic series. It delivered. It already has. Just like Big Gabe with the pizza at his own tournament. Yes, he had a stream on his own stream of him serving pizza. I don't believe he actually participated. He was too busy serving pizza. And, of course, organizing the whole... What I'm saying is, I appreciate it. And I hope... it looked like a lot of fun, and I'm a little jealous. I kind of wanted to go. But it's a bit of a drive. But at least we get to relive some of it. So thank you for watching. Got to take advantage of all our match points to advertise. And who knows? It could be a 5-minute all-in. It could be a 25-minute brawl. We've trended towards the second, but we've had our share of the first. The 2 fastest players in the game just unloading on each other. And I believe we're not doing phrasing, so we're just going to move right on. As Reynor sends the Overlord directly across, not even looking for any sort of proxies. And what a way that would be for Clem to try to cap it off. It's such a dramatic game. Was this the first game? I think so, yes. With the Hellbat timings, which are still sticky out. We saw a couple Hellbat games. Limited success. Well, the Hellbat composition itself didn't really live up to it, but Hellbat timing still a valid card to play. The Reaper. He doesn't have the bit. Oh, no! And he almost body blocks the extractor, but not quite. Reynor was at about 269 minerals, which is not nice enough. He was less than 1 second away from being able to build the hatch. But Clem has gone out of his way to be in his. And, okay. Dancing effectively. The Zergling counter, unfortunately, is going to be too late to delay the base. So, mischievous and deceitful, chicanerous and deplorable. Get off my... Oh no. The drone. He got away with it. The Reaper delayed the base for nearly a minute, danced around the queens, and got away. Back at home, the Zerglings not on the command center for a little while, which is better than nothing, technically. Reynor gonna attempt a big Zergling counter, and Clem has fallen for this several times so far. This is quite a commitment at this stage of the game. Will he wait for the second round of Hellions? Because right now it's actually an oh no. Well, he caught 1 Hellion, which is a huge deal. That makes it a lot easier to get the SCV kills. 2 Hellions can really line them up, but so far 3 kills. The rest of the Hellions are coming back home. He can get the Marine. He might be, if he gets that second Hellion, the SCVs will body block out, physically blocking 6 kills. 7. And he dragged everything back. So, pretty great. Certainly not terrible. A very good start for Reynor in dragging back a little bit of that early initiative. No, I'm not... Hey, this is the last time we use Apple Maps. Oh, shut up, Jennifer. But this is the last time we invite you. I'm just... Sorry. And the Zerglings again. The Hellions weren't too far outside this time. He's going to get into the main and spot the barracks timing. Very important to confirm. Clem has not tried any bit of McDonald's. We've only had that Hellbat style. But confirming it's going to be the Marines that he so commonly expects. What a save on the drone. A Transfuse coming through. And the Banshee will be shooed away. They're just started, though, which means the Cloak Banshee is still going to be quite a missile-based thorn in the side. Nice dodge. The Overlord struggling to find its place in life, just like so many of us. And instead of going back to the Pervert Pillar, we'll just eventually die, which is easier, I guess. Double upgrades will be the choice for Reynor. He actually split the Evo chambers. I don't think he's trying to hide them. But those Banshees still working around the... Uh-oh. Well, there are Zerglings. And the Hellions coming in an awkward angle. Okay. The Banshees... Oh, no. 1 queen after another. A bunch of drones getting charbroiled as well. That's not enough lings. He has to build more. How many queens? 2 queens. And about to be 3. The Banshee runs out of energy, but not out of missiles. That queen has to be very careful tiptoeing. Oh, no. Well, the Zergling count is it's not enough. In fact, if Clem knew that, if Clem knew what the Zergling count was, he'd already be in that mineral line, but didn't want to risk it. He has control of the situation. He's already taken back a lot of the initiative. Oh, Reynor still at 69 drones, which is certainly a lot nicer than I thought it'd be. After all, it's because part of the reason Reynor has not had these defenses is because he's just been building drones. And he's gotten away with it. His double upgrades are at a comparable timing to Clem's, and in fact he's going mass Hydras with ranged attack upgrades. Banshee. Any damage on the 4th base is going to be a massive pain, but Banshee just a couple hits away. Might as well be dozens. Clem sending his first attack force up to the north side. And there's no vision at all. Reynor can anticipate it, but the ship has already sailed on that one. It's a pretty important base to try to keep alive, and it's a freebie. Reynor just cancels. No hope of defending. The Hydra count is growing dramatically. He's already got double digits. Though Clem, I think, realizes he's going mass siege tank so far. Making sure he has the ability to hold a stronger position. Hydra's much better against Widow Mines than the Lings and Banes, as they can outrange them, obviously. The main attack. 150 supply across the board. The Hydras in awkward position. Eat a siege tank hit. The Transfuse is trying to hold it together. The Zerglings a little late on the draw. How many Hydras? Only lost 4 Hydras. Tank's getting a lot of damage. Huge counterattack or potential flank. Unclear what it's going to be yet. I think Reynor's still deciding for himself. There's not too many more upgrades we're waiting for here. Some Hellbats mixed in. I think the surviving Hellions. There's no Banelings. The Hydra's on the wrong side of the hatchery. Trying to hold on. I think he's just trying to wait till Hydra speed if he can. The Zerglings are just... He's just going to try to hold this with Hydras. And the Zerglings looking for a counterattack, but not finding it. Clem, down in supply a bit. Reynor, he loses the hatch, which is rough, but a Widow Mine not finding a great hit. He's going to clean up the tanks. And the Banshee's back! Oh no! That single Banshee, enough to get it all to turn around because he doesn't have an Overseer. Sniping off some Hydras, and most importantly, forcing detection. Finally gonna take it out, but stalling out the counterattack before it even really started. The Widow Mines stuck in with the composition. No drilling claws yet. He can burrow it mid-fight, try to drag the hits in, splits, and diffuses the bomb before it can really go off. Reynor holding. Does he have an infestation pit? No, but he's got the 2-2 upgrades on the way. Clem going to have them first. He also has a 4th command center completed and building a planetary on location at the 9 o'clock. So, Clem holding the center. +2 infantry weapon upgrades. Weapon and armor upgrades nearly completed. And he's going to be staring down the barrel at 200 supply with those newly upgraded barrels. But Reynor maybe has him over one. Catches the army, anticipating the attack club with a double sensor tower, just making very sure. Preemptively cutting off a hatchery that's not even there. Well, retargets. The Widow Mine still connects, unfortunately. And another mine going to cut off many of the Zerglings. And just now finishing the upgrades, Clem strikes the moment they complete. Confident enough to fight these Hydras, which I'm not sure he can without the medevacs behind. Yeah, that's not enough. Misunderestimating the Hydra list, but reinforcements have arrived. The medevacs will heal up the initial army. And now more Hydras in production, but have yet to be delivered. Needs to bring everything together, but there's still the counterattack to the south. The triple drop, the medevacs. Vulnerable, knocks out one, picks up into the others, and they'll expect one of us in the wreckage, brother. No, go back. Widow Mine's dragged in. Splash damage works both ways. Another mine. Another hit on the medevacs as well. Bringing everything together, the Hydras are concentrated to the north side. Clem and Reynor both concentrated there as well. Another hit. The Widow Mine slamming into the Overseers. Has to be careful not to lose all of them. But another couple are diffused by the Overseers themselves, which is maybe best case scenario. But that double drop never went away, and it comes back in. It is Terran through the mineral line. 2 Hydras gunned down. Nothing to defend the drones. Clem, though, trying to hold against a swath of Hydras that get caught in the Valley of Death. Mines on the high ground, Hydras on the low, but the Marines and Marauders looking down on them like Terrans do on the inferior races. The medevacs continuing to heal up with every point of energy, which is every point they have. And so far, the mines targets them down. Another hit forces the Hydras back, and Clem grinding out a supply lead and getting that much closer. The Queens try to hold it together. The medevacs can't heal forever, but maybe they just have to heal enough. The drop never went away. There was still a medevac of Marines. And Reynor continuing to take damage on the back line and unable to break through on the front. There's still so many Hydras. 66 Hydras taken down. And the medevacs just don't have enough energy. He's building ghosts, though. Finally, as it scans, does he have a hive? No. Do I just need to hold? Yes. He pulls back yet again. The Widow Mines continuing to slam in. Reynor targeting them down. A single Overseer. 2-2 upgrades. 3-3 is on the way. The command centers take it out. The drop may finally be cleaned up. No! A single Marine. Big Gabe representing Heromarine in the tournament of his own. The Hydras on the high ground, but the Ghosts lining up some shots, and they're not bad at firing directly. Oh, the splash damage raining down, and the Hydras directly into the unit's lost tab. The Lings and Banes. Well, no Banes existing at all, and Reynor, that's it. There's nothing left. The critical mass of Hydralisk is broken. GG, WP. And the rank 1 Terran in the world once again proves his place as Reynor brings him almost the entire distance. But it's Clem who crosses the finish line first. And that game was only 13 minutes and almost 37 seconds. One of the most intense games, an intense series, since the last time I saw these two play. But every time they deliver. 2 of the youngest players in the game proving that they can keep the speed until they needn't any longer. But I'm glad it's over, and I'm glad it happened. Thank you to Big Gabe and the Xperioncraft Cup for bringing us another incredible series and another amazing tournament. Thank you for watching. I hope I made your day just a little bit better. And if you got the means and motivation, be awesome to check out Patreon or YouTube membership. But I hear liking and subscribing is still free, at least for now. Thank you to our meal tier patrons, Big Jiggy, Devin, Dor, Kate, Mario Soup. Glad you still enjoy. And to everyone, make sure to check out this video Jimmy picked out for you, unless it's terrible, in which case it's his fault. Otherwise, thank you for watching. Good luck, have fun. I'll see you next time. Stay chill.